Jo Swinson started the general election with pretty lofty ambitions of becoming Prime Minister. Even I think the strongest Lib Dem cheerleaders would accept it's not been the best election campaign. But I want to find out if a rather bumpy campaign for the Lib Dems won't just cost them nationally, but could it even pose a threat in her own seat here in East Dunbartonshire? How you doing?
Nice
Lovely to meet you.
Nice
How's it going? You wrapped up warm?
Oh yeah, so many layers. I think I've got 5 on today.
Tell me, how did you get involved in politics?
The referendum started it all for me. Keeping the NHS in public hands, all these kind of things just matter to me, and also the self-determination for Scotland. Us being able to choose our own future, you know, and our own path. Scotland's not voted for Tory governments for over 60 years, and look what we're stuck with down in Westminster.
Are you from an SNP background, your family?
No.
What did they vote originally then? Where were they at?
So they were Labour. Hi, sorry to bother you. My name's Amy Callaghan. I'm your SNP candidate for the upcoming election.
I'm not SNP.
You're not? Can I ask who you do vote for? No, you're not interested. No problem. Nice to meet you, sir.
Right, thank
Cheers,
you.
you take care. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, bye-bye.
Hello,
Hiya.
hiya, how are you doing?
Alright.
My name's Amy Callaghan.
I recognise your face.
Oh,
from
do
the-
you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the election?
Very positive.
Very positive.
Yeah.
Who do you think you'll be voting for?
I know who I'll be voting for. It should be SNP, and I always have done.
Why have you always been so solid SNP?
But I've always been very Scottish, despite having English relatives. And my mother was Welsh, but I've always been very Scottish. I love everybody else in the UK as well, but that's always been the point. Let's be neighbours.
Yeah, that's it. Let's be neighbours and friends, but not be ruled by each other.
Absolutely. I think it will happen. I don't care how it happens, but let's hope it gets done the right way.
Yes.
See you in a bit. Take care.
Can I ask why you support the SNP?
Yeah, because I believe Scotland should be an independent country.
Yeah.
Why do you want to be independent? What for you is what do you get?
Because Scotland's voice has been ignored, and the people in Scotland voted to remain in the European Union, for example, which I totally believe in. In Europe, Scotland would have an equal voice. In the United Kingdom, they don't have.
What do you think of Jo Swinson and the Lib Dems?
She doesn't live here, but she claims to represent the people of East Dunbartonshire.
If I was going to be mischievous, I would say this. If my big defining cause was Scottish independence, I would pray for Boris Johnson to become Prime Minister and hard Brexit to happen.
Never. Categorically, never. I would never, ever hope or pray for Boris Johnson to go into Downing Street, because I want independence for Scotland, but I want independence for Scotland not to the detriment of anyone in the United Kingdom.
What I'm interested in is a similar proportion of SNP voters voted for Brexit as Labour voters did. But you're standing on an avowedly anti-Brexit platform, second referendum with Remain, full blast pro-EU. How does that go down with those voters? Surely some of them are like, hang on a minute, want independence, but I also want out the EU as well, and you're stopping me from doing that.
Here in Scotland, we voted to remain. East Dunbartonshire voted overwhelmingly to remain. So I've only met a couple of people who have supported the SNP in the past and are a bit reserved about remaining part of the EU. But I think the fundamental thing is that in 2016, people were lied to and they never got the full picture. Total stark contrast with the 2014 referendum in Scotland. You know, we had a clear picture of the transfer of powers and different things. Brexit's just been a mess.
In terms of this election, the two big kind of candidates to watch in terms of will they lose their seat or not, it's Jo Swinson and Boris Johnson. Now that seems a bit far-fetched for a lot of people, but the majorities are quite similar, by the way. What do you think? Do you think that would for you would be if it was Jo Swinson and Boris Johnson in one night?
Well, I think that would be incredible in terms of just, you know, progressing away from the politics of austerity and poverty. I think that's a huge symbol. And in terms of being a far cry, Jo Swinson losing her seat, I don't think so. I think I'm in with a shot of winning this seat, and the SNP are in with a shot with winning right across Scotland. And
how many drinks would you have that night?
A few.
So chat to the SNP. I want to talk to the voters about a few things here as well. Are the SNP being a little bit too cocky, thinking they can just defeat Jo Swinson? Has the SNP tide got limits? What do people think of independence? We've got lots to chat about. Jo Swinson's the MP here.
Yes.
What do you think of her?
I think she's a pop-up MP. She pops up when she feels like she needs to be seen. and the rest of the time she's never here. In fact, she's even developed an English accent.
The independence referendum was a bit of a political awakening, it seems, for a lot of younger people.
But I'd say it definitely kind of made more people aware politically of the Westminster system and how it doesn't really help Scotland. As for Jo Swinson, she voted for austerity policies, which can affect this constituency quite badly. I've infected myself, so I'm not voting SNP just purely for the independence. If Scotland return the majority SNP consistently, then I feel like they eventually cannot be ignored.
So, the election, who's it going to be? Jo Swinson? No. SNP?
No.
Okay, they're gone. Labour?
No.
Oh, okay. That is the Tories.
It does, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So.
Have I just decided for you to vote for the Tories? The Jo Swinson, what do you think?
I think she's doing a good job.
Yeah?
She's a good MP, yeah.
So you might vote for her?
Good.
Who's it going to be?
Swinson.
Why is it Jo Swinson for you?
Because we've got to keep the SNP out. I'm going to have to vote for Jo.
Right.
Swinson, that is. I'm a Labour man at heart.
Right.
They haven't got a realistic chance here.
Is it fair to say that a lot of people, rather than being big fans of the Lib Dems here, they might instinctively be Tories or instinctively be Labour, who are tactically voting for Jo Swinson to keep the SNP out?
The answer is yes, it's a tactical vote. But she's a good constituency MP, so she gets my vote.
So hung out with the SNP, chatted to some voters, but I want to talk to the Lib Dems. Obviously Jo Swinson's not about, there is an election going on, but let's have a chat with an activist about the Lib Dems prospects. Is this where all the Lib Dem parties happen?
Kind of.
Do things get a little bit out of control with the Lib Dem parties?
Never.
Come on, do people have one too many of these? It gets a little bit raucous.
We do like a bit of red wine now and again.
Do you think it was a mistake by Jo Swinson to start the election saying that she was aiming to become Prime Minister? Because obviously now, I mean, the polling for the Lib Dems has gone down a lot.
But the daft thing is, do you know...
And it seemed quite arrogant to a lot of people, a bit presumptuous.
See, I think there's really quite a lot of sexism goes on about Jo. It really, I find it frustrating. I'm trying to remember back to when Nicola Sturgeon first got elected and whether she got the same, and I can't remember, but it seems to me like the words people use about Jo, you know, arrogant, or I've heard people say shrill and stuff like that.
But that's sexist. Shrill is definitely sexist.
But I'm just thinking... You know, I don't remember people calling Nick Clegg arrogant for, you know, there was a lot of I agree with Nick.
If the Lib Dems stay kind of similar amount of seats, do you think Jo Swinson should resign?
Oh, God, no.
Really?
Why?
Because she went into an election saying she's going to become Prime Minister.
That's
and then
ridiculous.
She stays with the same number of seats as last time. Just seems a little bit of a disaster.
That is ridiculous. That's so overstating it. I mean, she's our new leader, for heaven's sake. Right. She's growing into the role. And I think she gets a hard time, but I just feel really proud of her when I see her on TV.
A lot of people we spoke to on the streets are angry with the Lib Dems because of their record in government. Because obviously Scotland, one of the reasons Scottish independence became so popular compared to certainly its historic levels was because of the austerity that the coalition Lib Dem Tory government supported. Do you not think that's true? Would as many people have voted for independence in 2014 if it wasn't for that austerity?
If we end up leaving the EU, it's like I've had my right arm ripped off. But if we end up leaving, the UK, it's like my heart's been ripped out. People care far more about that.
Who would you prefer as Prime Minister, Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson? If you don't have a choice, it's just one or the other.
I think I wouldn't vote. I'd stay at home.
But then stopping
close the doors.
But stopping Brexit can't be a priority then, because Boris Johnson means Brexit will happen in a really quite severe form. And if Jeremy Corbyn becomes Prime Minister, you get to campaign for Remain.
I want Jo to be Prime Minister. But thank you very much.
We know that's not going to happen.
You don't know that?
The first political tornado really to kind of hit the UK was the issue of Scottish independence years ago, and it still defines politics here, but that's collided of course with another political tornado, and that's the issue of Brexit, and that will determine what happens in constituencies like this north of the border, but it will help determine of course what happens in the whole of the UK as well. Now, will Jo Swinson actually lose her seat? Well, I think it's fair to say that a majority of over 5,000 is pretty tough for the SNP to overturn. But the fact that we're even having this conversation, I think, underlines that a Lib Dem campaign which started with such high expectations has already been pretty bitterly disappointed.